All right, what's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a great week so far. This video here was totally unplanned. I was just actually coming up with some content ideas and planning for future fights and everything to address. And I wanted to stop and just give some appreciation to the American boxers, right? Because I just don't feel that they get enough credit for what they do. There's a lot of hate that goes towards them throughout the year. And even myself, though, sometimes, we're going to make videos where we criticize fighters for ducking or not giving great performances and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's been a phenomenal year for the American boxing. As much as they get criticized, I see them get criticized, whether it's other content creators, whether it's social media, it could be Twitter, it could be Instagram, it could be the media, you know what I mean? It could be fans, it could be whatever. But at the end of the day, when you look at the year that we had a great year, over here in America. We have a lot of champions right now, you know. And shout out to everybody else that's doing their thing. Shout out to the UK, UK, from whether you're in Europe, Eastern Europe, or you're in Asia, or wherever you are in the world, Australia. Shout out to everybody else because I showed them love throughout the year too. It's not like I'm a strictly American boxing content creator. I make content on fighters around the world year round. But today, I wanted to show some appreciation to the American boxers because they had a great year, and we have a lot of champions, like I said, like outside of heavyweight. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the bad too, some of the things that we need to work on moving forward. Um, there's a little bit of bad, I'll get to that later in the video, but I wanted to bring up some fighters that I think had a great year, some of the top American fighters outside of the heavyweight division, the cruiserweight division, the middleweight division, and the very lower divisions. There's not many Americans there that's really doing their thing. But if you look at all the other divisions, there's like a champion somewhere in there. If they're not unified, if they're not, undisputed, the American fighters are doing extremely well. Don't for regardless of what you hear and all the people complaining about them every single day, I wanted to show some love and bring up some fighters here. I have a list here, and then I want to bring up also some of the fighters or some of the things that I hope improve going into the new year. All right. I got to start off with Terence Crawford. How can I not start off with Crawford beating Canelo? I believe he's a 5 division champ at this point. Started at lightweight, moved all the way up to super middle, became undisputed in 3 different divisions in the 4 belt era, and jumping up 2 divisions to fight Canelo and beating Canelo when he only had one fight at 54. You know what I mean? Like, that was a phenomenal performance and definitely performance of the year, in my opinion. And he's already an all-time great. He was already a Hall of Famer, but now people are putting his name next to some of the very best of all time. He's definitely the best, in my opinion, in this current generation. Um, and I just gotta salute him, for what he's done. And he's a superstar now. I mean, the guy's on everything now outside of boxing. He's well known outside of boxing. I mean, it was big when he beat Errol, but now he's reached a different level of fame and wealth. And definitely gotta salute him, because I think the way he fights, the way he conducts himself outside of the ring as well, is it's definitely something that other American fighters need to follow suit in doing. Wasn't a big talker, wasn't trying to be the bad guy, wasn't always a family guy. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's perfect. He's had his issues too, but at the end of the day, I think he's a great role model for the future fighters, especially in the ring as well. Technical boxer, could switch, but he will also beat you down. You know what I mean? He's not overly slick. He's entertaining to watch, and he's highly skilled at the same time. So I have to give him the most credit, and that's why I mentioned everybody else. I'm sure I forgot certain people that I wanted to bring up, and that's what the comments is for. If I didn't bring up, if you guys want to add to it, you can add right in the comments. But shout out to Terence Crawford, shout out to David Benavidez, you know, Mexican American fighter. As long as I see a lot of Mexicans try not to include him, but you know what? At the end of the day, man, he's an American fighter, and he's one of the best in the world in my book. And he always gives me good fights. I really don't have much complain. Sometimes we all want other fights. We all can say, well, he should have fought this guy, or he should have did this. And at the end of the day, that guy goes in the ring and he puts on these dominating performances like he did the other night against Anthony Yard. And yeah, there are certain people, yeah, I would love to see him fight Bivol or better BF. But at the end of the day, he is doing a great job. He had a great year. Like, he had a great year. He beat Dave Morrell, which a lot of people felt what Morrell was going to beat him. I remember making a breakdown video on that fight. I remember reading the comments. I remember how many Morrell fans was in those comments saying that I got it wrong. I'm going to get it wrong. David Benavidez is one of the top fighters in America, and he should, he has a title in the second division. He's looking to get via unified in the third by going up to cruiser and beating or fighting and possibly being Zerto Ramirez. And that guy might actually be a heavyweight at one day. You know what I mean? So shout out to David Benavidez. Shout out to Lamont Roach that had a monster year. Like, Lamont Roach, I know he didn't beat Tank Davis officially, but most people felt that he won the fight. And even though it was a draw, most people didn't expect him to win. A lot of people, including myself, I thought that he was a cherry pick for Tank, another fighter that Tank was pulling up from a lower weight to fight. Lamont Roach did his thing, and he didn't fight scared. He fought Tank for real, like very aggressively, and got caught with a lot of shots and was able to tank those shots and put on a great performance and buzzing Tank a few times. Like, we never seen Tank like that before. Tank has always been kind of dominant for the most part, except against Ishak Cruz. And Lamont Roach got a fight coming up in a couple weeks. But definitely got to give him his flowers, for coming and performing the way he did. And I'm hoping that it wasn't just a fluke. Hopefully we can see him still be impressive because, you know, he never was considered, he's been a champion, but he was never considered like an elite fighter, like a top tier fighter. But now people are looking at him like that. And he had a good media run after the fight, did a lot of interviews on a lot of platforms within the boxing community, within the hip hop community. His face was on everything after that fight. So I had to give him a lot of credit for that. Also, another one, Stephen Fulton, because he really, talking about hip hop, he really did, like, he beat Brandon Figueroa in a rematch they had, which was a very necessary rematch because a lot of people felt that Fulton lost that first fight. So to come in and beat him clearly, right, in their rematch, and wearing the Timbs, wearing the jean shorts with the Timbs, that was crazy. It was super viral. And, he has a fight coming up with O'Shaquie Foster, which is another American fighter that's doing his thing as well. And now Fulton is moving up to another weight class, from 122 to 126, now to 130. Hopefully he keep doing his thing. I like O'Shaquie Foster too, so I'm not, I'm neutral with that fight, but he had a great year, you know what I mean? And he definitely went viral with his outfit. Plus he performed with that outfit. So I think it was pretty dope. Shakur Stevenson, gotta bring him up because he is the most, or one of the most criticized fighters probably on this list, outside of Devin Haney. Shakur Stevenson beat William Cepeda, and it was a lot more entertaining than what we used to see him because Shakur this time around decided to fight with William Cepeda. You know, whatever you saw in the De Los Santos fight, you didn't see that here. You know, he stood his ground. He got hit more than what we're used to seeing him get hit, but you know, he didn't get the stoppage, but he secured a really good win, you know, and it was an entertaining fight. And he's still, you know, one of the best in the world to me. He's definitely one of my personal favorite fighters. Definitely in my top 5 favorite fighters to watch. Um, but you know, now like he did what he had to do. He fought a guy that was undefeated, that was dangerous, that can punch, that can easily throw 1,000, 1,200 punches, whatever. And he was able to neutralize him and beat him at, you know, even at his own game at times. So shout out to Shakur Stevenson, you know, being a champ. I mean, what is he, champ in 3 different divisions now? He might be fighting Teofimo Lopez at 140. So shout out to Shakur for having a good resume, still winning, undefeated. You know, had its ups and downs, you know, but he was able to bounce back with that William Cepeda win. You know, he had a pretty, I don't know if it was last year with the whole Cameron thing and, you know, being a boring fighter and stuff like that. But um, I think Shakur is going to give us some better fights in the near future, more entertaining. Devin Haney, I think he's the most hated boxer in all of boxing from everywhere, too, even from Americans, you know. But the difference between me and everybody else is that I feel like, yeah, there's some people that feel like he's a boring fighter, but I stick to boxing. Whatever Devin Haney chooses to do outside of the ring, I don't really care. I know people complain about his clothing. People complain about suing Ryan or suing his girlfriend or suing or having a fight overturned. You know what I mean? Like or his father. They hate his father, Bill Haney. You know what I mean? Or him mimicking Floyd Mayweather and some of the quotes that he said. Um, People have a lot of criticisms on Devin Haney. But I strictly keep it boxing. And he's, as far as I'm concerned, yes, he's undefeated. He lost to Ryan, but Ryan was cheating. You know what I mean? Fights get overturned all the time for failed drug tests. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And Devin Haney, say what you want about him. He's a great fighter. You know, he's a champion in 3 different divisions now. He's a former undisputed champion. And I think he has a good chance of being undisputed at 147, you know? And I look forward to seeing his future fights. I love this recent fight. You know, I like a lot of his fights. You know, I didn't like the Jose Ramirez fight. I was highly critical on it. And that's what we do here. I can't speak for everybody else. I can't speak for everybody else on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter Spaces. You know, I listen to some people's stuff every now and their kind of content ain't my content. My content is more strictly 95% boxing, what's happening in the ring. And I'm not a gossiper. So what I see in the ring from him, I'm very happy on, you know, I'm very impressed by his performances and I still think he's getting better, you know? I mean, that fight the other day was a very good fight and very good performance and just want him to keep winning. Same with Abdullah Mason. Abdullah Mason the other day, he's a new champ. He's the youngest champion in boxing right now. All right? And he has a lot of abilities, but what he chose to do the other day against Sam Noakes was to fight his fight. He wanted the knockout. He said prior to the fight, I just saw the interview today where he said that he was looking to stop him early. Okay. I didn't know that. Maybe he underestimated Sam Noakes a little bit, but he ended up still giving us a top 10 fight of the year. I thought it was one of the best fights of the year. And it was definitely the best fight on the card. And Sam Noakes too. Shout out to Sam Noakes. I mean, he's not American, but shout out to him because it took a good opponent to bring that out of Mason. And I don't think he should fight every fight like that. Moving forward, I already addressed that in my recap video, but another young American champion that is the youngest champion in boxing. And he can box, but he can slug it out. he's giving us entertainment. So if you're complaining about Shakur, if you're complaining about Devin Haney, you're gonna get a Mason who's, you know, young, American, and he likes to fight, and up to this point he's won every fight. So looking forward to seeing his future. Um, Again, I've had my critiques on him, and I will in the future. Um, but today we show an appreciation to these fighters. Vergil Ortiz Jr., another fighter that I was recently critical about because of his push to fight in aerospins at this point. But we can't ignore that Vergil Ortiz is one of the best fighters out there as well. Okay. Had a phenomenal year, stopping Lubin in 2 rounds, beating Madrimov more convincingly than Crawford did. It was a way more entertaining fight. It was a dog fight, and I'd never seen a Vergil Ortiz boring fight, and that we're never gonna see it because the way he fights, yes, he takes a lot of hit. What we just saw in the Mason fight, we see in the Vergil fight. So even when he fought Bohachuk and he got dropped a couple of times, got hit a lot, it was still entertaining to watch. You know what I mean? So, and I could do both. I can deal with a good defensive or slick fighter that can outpoint you, but I like a guy that can be a monster in there and try to beat you down and try to get the stoppage. You know what I'm saying? I like both. It just depends on what you're doing. If you're doing it at a high level, I can still enjoy it. If it's sloppy or if it's a little bit overly too defensive where you're moving too much like Haney against Ramirez, I'm going to be critical on it. You know what I mean? But that's what we do here. But we keep in the boxing at the end of the day. you know. So shout out to Vergil Ortiz, another phenomenal American boxer that had a great year. And I gotta bring up Boots because Boots is right there too. None of us wanted to see Nalima fight, and you heard me and you heard everybody that watches boxing. Who the hell is this guy? Why is he fighting this guy right now? Go up to 54, challenge a top fighter at 54 in your first fight, like a lot of these other guys on the list. I wanted that from Boots. I was critical of Boots, but Boots is another fighter that's a top fighter in America, you know, and he had a great win earlier this year against Ennis, became unified at 147, was a top 147 fighter before moving up. I mean, yeah, there might have been some fights that I wanted to see in between. Yeah, I wanted to see the Norman fight when he was at 47. I wanted to see Haney fight if Haney was really going to fight him. I would have loved to see that fight. I would have loved to see some fights at 54 that he didn't take yet. But at the end of the day, like, he still put on a masterclass performance against Stanionis, who was undefeated, and it was a very good welterweight, and probably still is. Just want to see when he comes back. But you got to shout out to Jerron Ennis because he's doing his thing too. Like, and I still want to see the Crawford fight, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Crawford is ducking him because I don't believe that, but I would love to still see that fight. I would love to see the fight. We're not going to see it, but Boots got a lot of options right now at 54. A ton of them. Dangerous. A lot of dangerous fighters up there. So, got to give him his flowers. Got to give Sebastian Flanor his flowers as well. Destroying Tim Tszyu. I know he didn't fight Thurman, but he did give us 2 fights this year. He destroyed Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu, people may say he is damaged good because he got stopped before that. Couple fights before that, but I still got to give Fedor his props. He is an American fighter that fell off, all right, because he got knocked out a couple years back, and he took an opportunity to be a late replacement, all right, for Tim Tszyu and Keith Thurman, and he jumped on the opportunity, and he's been up since then. So I got to show him mad love for that. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, he didn't fight Keith Thurman, but I really didn't want to see that fight anyway. I want to see Fedor unify at 54 or fight one of the other top guys at 54. There's a lot of people there, and you got guys that just moved up like Boots and Vergil Ortiz. Shout out to Bam Rodriguez. Definitely in my pound for pound. All right, he's been in my pound for pound for at least 3 or 4 fights now. And he's one of the I like him for the same reasons why I like Bud. I like him for the same exact reasons. He's gonna give you all the technically sound stuff, but he's gonna try to beat your ass at the same time. He's looking to stop you. So he's a good boxer, but he can do both. And I love it's like watching him is like watching art. Like he's very aggressive, put a lot of smart pressure, but he's giving you angles, he's giving you phenomenal footwork, all the technical stuff that we see in the technically sound fighters. We're getting that in him. And I can't wait till he continues moving up, whether he chooses to be. I mean, he's definitely me. He had a great year, just beating Puma, Kafu earlier this year, but beating Puma. And now he's basically holds all 3 major titles, and he's beaten all major fighters at that division. He doesn't need to be undisputed, but he should probably go for it before going to 118, so you can have that on your resume, you know. Um, and then also, before I move on, I could. There's a lot of more fighters I could name, but shout out to Floyd Schofield, because a lot of people wasn't really feeling him because of the Shakur Stevenson pullout, the whole hospital situation and all that. But he went in there and he dominated. What's his name? He knocked out. Who was the guy he knocked out in like the first 20 seconds? Can't think of his name right now. From Philly. Tevin Farmer. He stops Tevin Farmer quickly, right away, right? In like a minute. And Tevin Farmer, Tevin Farmer is the type to do that, yes, he has his losses, but a lot of fighters just don't look good against him. Cepeda fights, I think he might have won one of those fights. I think the first fight he might have won. He didn't look, he made Morataya look bad. He's been around for a long time. He's been durable, very defensive, but Floyd Schofield went in there and destroyed him. And I got to give him credit for that. Now, there's more work to be done. You know what I mean? I don't think his accolades is like all these other fighters that I named just now. But he's another American fighter that I look forward to seeing fighting and Abdullah Mason in the future. You know what I mean? Or anybody else that's at 135 that's at the top. Andy Cruz, Raymond Morataya. You know what I mean? Sam Noakes. I would love to see him fight those guys. But shout out to Floyd Schofield just for bouncing back, getting a crazy knockout, and look forward to seeing what he's going to do in the future. Now, before I end this video, I just wanted to throw a couple of things out there. First, Tank Davis, probably the biggest, well, outside of Jake Paul now, but probably the biggest name in American boxing outside of Crawford and Paul. Tank had a rough year, right? Most people don't think he lost to. Most people think he lost to Lamont Roach, and recently had some recent allegations, more domestic allegations, which canceled his fight with Jake Paul. Still keep getting in trouble, some sort of trouble outside of the ring. In the ring, not picking the fighters that most of us want to see. He has some hardcore ride or die fans that get really angry. I'm sure they're going to be in the comments. But at the end of the day, this was probably one of the worst years for him in boxing. And even if you think he should have won against Roach, or you thought it was a legitimate draw or whatever, Tank didn't perform like we normally saw him perform. And I don't think that has anything to do with him. I just think he finally fought someone that was a cherry pick, considered a cherry pick before the fight, but it was just the wrong cherry, and sometimes it'll take a Lamont Roach for you to wake up. I don't know what's going to really happen with Tank. He's been talking retirement. I really don't know where his career is gonna go. He didn't fight any of the guys I wanted to see him fight. Keyshawn Davis, Shakur, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Lomachenko. That's 5 names that I just felt like at some point he should have really fought. 5 names. Understand that people are not going to fight all of them. Even in that group. Some of those fighters still got fights that they didn't take. But some of those fighters that I named earlier, they fought one or two of those guys that I wanted. Some of them fought, they put themselves in the mix with the other best. And I feel like Tank fought really good fighters, but not quite the best. But he had a rough year. Whether he stays in boxing or not, I hope he gets to turn his stuff around. And that's it. That's all I got to really say about Tank. I wish him luck in whatever he do, but he's really not a likable guy outside the ring, and I can't defend the way he moves, especially as a fan when you're not giving me the product that I want and I pay for it, because I pay for your pay-per-views. Like, I put money in your pocket, and I have been for years. As far as the heavyweight division, the American boxing in the heavyweight division is just not good right now. It's not at a good space. And I don't really know what the future guys are going to do, because ever since Wilder, took his losses to Fury, things just kind of went further downhill from there. All right. And he's older now. You got Gerald Miller, who I'm happy to say that, he's been clean. I thought he did beat Andy Ruiz. I watch him on Instagram. Like, he's getting in shape. He's in phenomenal shape. I've been saying for him, like guys like him, guys like Martin Bacoli, just get in shape, bro. Like, grind out, like, get in good fitness. Stop trying to win fights just based off size. And he looks in phenomenal shape. Check out his Instagram. Hopefully he stays clean, because he's getting older too, and he doesn't have much time to go. You know what I mean? So maybe he can he can sell a fight, so he's always going to get another opportunity. But I am at least happy to say and see that he's in shape. Richard Torres Jr., again, he's not a prospect anymore in my eyes, but he's a great guy. He just needs an opportunity. I don't know what he's going to do at the elite level. He recently called out Moses Atama. I was cool with that, but I don't really know. I can't really see him beating the champions up there. You know what I mean? I don't see it, but hopefully, excuse me, he gets an opportunity. Jared Anderson, man, tough, because like, I was excited about him, and I still am. He recently just got an opportunity to fight for the IBF title eliminator. Okay, that Daniel Dubois was supposed to take. So if you didn't know, and this is like breaking news, Jared Anderson is going to be fighting the Cuban. I just brought him up a few videos ago, and I forgot. I'm really getting bad with trying to memorize everything. But yeah, he's gonna get an IBF title eliminator against Frank Sanchez. Sorry about that. I just hope that this guy finds some motivation to go in there and do his best, because he was his best when he lost to Bacoli. He just lost to a bigger, stronger, better, more experienced fighter. I just hope that he doesn't show up like the way he did in that return fight. I know he had a fight where he just wasn't in the greatest shape and he underperformed. I mean, it was the worst version of Jared Anderson I've seen. I hope he can physically and mentally get back in the game, because this is a great shot. And if he is to win this IBF eliminator, he will be right back in position to fight for a title soon. But he needs to get it together because Frank Sanchez is not a walk in the park and will beat him if he looked anything like he did in his last fight. And that's it with the heavyweights, man. I mean, I'm praising the American boxers, but at the end of the day, the heavyweight division is just not it's not where we're good at right now. Keyshawn, another guy, won a title this year, all right, against Denis Beranchyk. Everything fell apart when he had his homecoming. He had a rough year, just like Tank did. Terrible year. I mean, missed weight with De Los Santos. Announced that he was moving up in weight. And then got into an altercation at the event, which still went on. I know the brothers just signed with the manager of. Anyway, hopefully he gets his stuff together. That's all I gotta say about Keyshawn Davis. At his very peak, things fell apart this year. And I just hope that he gets everything back in order. Same with Errol Spence. Are you fighting or you're not fighting? Same with Jamel Charlo. Are you fighting or are you not fighting? Let's not waste any more time. You know, you guys still have names. You know, Jamel, he's inactive, but Spence got beaten and now he's inactive. If you have anything left, let's see it now. Time is running out. I was just saying this about Gerald Miller. Get it in. If you got anything left. I heard Errol Spence is supposed to be linking up with Roy Jones. Same with Jamal too. Jamal did have a fight in the beginning of the year, but let's whatever you have, there's money still on the table. Maybe you could get on one of these Riyadh season cards. I don't know. And Caleb Plant too. Caleb Plant had a rough year, man. You had a rough year, had a rough couple of years. He really might be outside of his physical prime, but if you can try to work out a fight with Jamal or someone there that's at 168 that can get you back in the mix, do it. All right. And I heard a rumor that they're supposed to be trying to work that fight out, but we'll see. Anyway, man, I know I named a lot of people. I'm sure I could have named more, but American boxing is on top. And I just wanted to show some appreciation to the fighters there. Again, I'm the type of channel that is going to tell you what it is, even on the bad days. All right. Unfortunately, content creating is at a much bigger space than what it was when I started. And that's great because I know a lot of people have become famous and they're making a great living off doing this kind of thing. I know people want me to do more interviews, and I do reach out to certain people here and there. But one thing I will say is this. One thing that I like about my channel is that I have the freedom to speak any way that I want to. I don't have to defend fighters because I did an interview or they're willing to do interviews with me. I don't have to sit here and just be loyal to fighters when they're underperforming or they're doing some bullshit outside of the ring or inside of the ring. I have the freedom of saying whatever I want to say. And you know what? That's not what the game is now. The game is give me as much attention, defend me on every occasion, and I'll give you an interview. I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to be like that. If I do interviews, even in interviews, I'm going to address what needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? I am not trying to be friends with people. I'm willing to have relationships with people, and I have had relationships with certain fighters. But at the same time, I'm going to keep it real as well, and without having to exposing any private things. But I'm always going to keep it real. And I do like the fact that I can have that freedom, and I don't see much of that anymore. I see a lot of guys that's content creators, and the fighters are building alliances with content creators. And I think that's dangerous because now you got people that have positions and they have a huge following, and they have a lot of influence on fans because they have an alliance with a certain fighter. You know, I love boxing. Boxing is boxing with me first. The only thing that I'm going to be loyal to is the sport. Just being loyal to an individual fighters, no. You guys know who I like. You guys know who I dislike. I have my biases as a fan, but as a content creator, I'm gonna keep it real every single time, or at least try to. All right. Um. Anyway, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right. Peace.